Welcome to Biff's Mystery Theater. I have many tales to tell you. Ghost stories, murder stories, and tales that will make your bones chill. Join me, won't you? For Theater of the Mind, where you always have the best seat in the house. Now close your eyes and turn off the lights.
Log entry, the catch Scarlet Queen, Philip Carney, master. Position, 5 degrees, 5 minutes south, 120 degrees, 3 minutes east. Wind light, sky overcast. Remarks, cleared port of Macassar, Celebes Island after troubled voyage up coast. Reason for trouble, tattooed beaver and baby food for pare pare. It was under a lowering sky 9 days out of Sandakan that we swung in toward the mountains that are the backdrop for Macassar, our first port below the equator. The Scarlet Queen threaded her way through the usual clutter of Oriental harbor traffic. Rusted inter-island steamers in from Surabaya, Batavia, Amboina, Papua, native craft from Celebes ports. It started to rain when we were halfway across the harbor. By the time we'd reached our berth at the Netherlands Asia Company's docks, our decks were awash with it, and it fell with equatorial consistency for 2 days. Hang's orders on Macassar had warned that the place was swarming with Constantino men, grouping because of our nearness to the prize Kang had chartered me to sail after. The orders were that unless we were contacted the first day, we were to leave and return every 24 hours. The first day passed without contact. So on the second, my chief mate Gallagher and I nosed into the city looking for a short cargo haul or something to make a trip out profitable. We didn't find it. But the third day started out to be better. We got a promise of clearing weather when the barometer started to rise, and the chance for a money trip when a visitor walked aboard the Scarlet Queen.
I am Van Riper, master of the Loca Juliana.
Oh, welcome aboard, Captain. I'm Phil Carney.
I see you berthed here. You are for charter?
Oh, I might be.
Good. I tell you about your passengers.
Well, I'm not rigged for passengers.
You are good enough. There are only 2 men and a married couple. 2 cabins. They bought passage with me to Pare Pare, but now I don't go. I got a better offer, a cargo for Java.
And you already signed for their passage?
That is right. They are in a hurry to get there. 1 day up, 1 day back. I pay you myself 2,000 florin.
Well, all right, Van Riper. Get them aboard. I'll want to leave this afternoon.
Here are the papers to sign. In this envelope, 2,000 florin. They will be here in 2 hours.
I signed the papers and watched him waddle off and disappear into the driving rain. Gallagher moved his gear into my cabin, and we made what preparations we could for the passengers and checked the chart for the run up the Celebes coast to Pare Pare. It looked like tricky sailing already, but when I read the barometer the last time before my passengers came aboard, I wished I hadn't signed them on. The mercury had risen all morning, but now it was falling rapidly. That and the lessening rain meant only one thing in these latitudes: storm.
And so Mutual continues The Voyage of the Scarlet Queen, written by Gil Dowd and Bob Tallman, and starring Elliot Lewis. The Scarlet Queen, proudest ship to plow the seas, bound for uncharted adventure. Every week, a complete entry in the log, and every week, a league further into the strange voyage of the Scarlet Queen.
By the time the passengers showed up, even the harbor water was uneasy, stirred by the rolling swells that swept in from Macassar Strait. They came aboard in the following order. First, wearing gaiters, a high clerical collar, flat hat, and a long ecclesiastical rain cape, a hawk-faced man.
I am Reverend Beaver, Captain. Harlan Beaver. May I say that your presence in this port was providential? When I think of those poor, gentle savages without a shepherd these many weeks.
Yeah, your cabin is the first one to starboard, Reverend, and this companionway here.
Number 2 was a sodden shape encased in white linen that was both wet and dirty. He carried a small black valise.
I have been cursed with the name Ambrose Griffiths, sir, but you will be relieved to know that there is a qualified physician aboard.
You bunk with the Reverend, Doctor.
A reverend, you say? It'll be a mighty tussle should he grapple with Griffiths' demon.
First cabin on this side.
The couple came aboard with the help of 3 crewmen. A man in a wheelchair, bundled in scarves, steamer rugs, and rubber sheeting until you could hardly tell what he looked like, was carried aboard. Followed by his wife, a pale, worried-looking little woman, at least 15 years younger than her husband, but trying her best to disguise the difference in their ages by the lack of makeup and the shapeless clothes she wore.
Mr. and Mrs. Alfred Cram, Captain. My husband is an invalid, as you see. There are certain things now about our boxes.
You mean your baggage?
No, our supplies. There are 48 boxes in all, and have your men stack them in our cabin.
48? Look, I'm sorry, Mrs. Cram. I contracted to take 4 passengers.
Oh, my dear Captain.
I can't take a cargo unless it goes through official channels.
Well, if you want to delay your sailing, you are, of course, at liberty to have the supplies inspected. But I assure you the boxes contain nothing but special foods, strained baby foods, which are necessary to my husband's very existence. Oh, Captain Carney, if you only knew how hard it's been to attain even this small supply. The delays, the red tape, and my poor
Okay,
husband...
Mrs. Cram. Gallagher, rig the cargo gear and get it aboard.
48 crates in the cabin, Skipper?
Well, get what you can in and stow the rest in number 1 hold.
Oh, thank you, Captain, thank you.
Yeah, well, Uh-oh. There she comes, Red. Get it aboard and make it secure. Kohler, lend the chief a hand. Crowder, Gordon, over here. We're rigging storm sails. "3 p.m. Ship took on heavy roll on entering Macassar Strait. Sea cresting with heavy cross-swell. Sky lowering with scudding clouds. Wind, moderate southeast gale. Velocity 30 knots. Restricted passengers to quarters. Double-reefed mainsail and mizzen. 4:30 p.m. Swell rising. Sky unchanged. Wind, fresh southeast gale. Velocity increased to 38 knots. Course altered 10 points to south for reasons of security. Port main backstay carried away. Mainsail taken in. Sailing under jib and mizzen. 8 p.m. Weather conditions unchanged. Ordered ship brought to for night and sails taken in. Keeping bow into storm with motor. Oil lanterns rigged throughout ship due to flooding of generator and failure of electrical power.
Captain Carney. What's happened to the lights?
Generator's been damaged, Reverend. The oil lights will carry us. But your orders were to stay in your cabin until the storm passed over. What are you doing here?
I have no need for the protection of the cabin, Captain. But for the sake of my native flock in Pari Pari, I must demand from you our position and the direction in which we are traveling.
Our position is just off the Spermondes, and our direction is roughly north by west.
Our fate is in your hands, Captain. So saying, I accuse you of the basest untruth. You reversed the direction of the ship, and in cowardice, you are retreating toward Macassar.
Reverend Beaver, if I could put about to Macassar, I would, but I can't. Our bow is to the storm, and we're losing way before it.
Captain Carney, I must reach Pari Pari.
Well, we'll make it.
When do you expect to resume your course?
When it's safe to do it.
I hope that will be soon, Captain.
So do I. Now, will you please go back to your cabin, Reverend? I got work to do.
As you command, Captain.
As he left, his hawk-like face was set in an expression that still could have been fear or anger or both. I started for the engine room to see what could be done about the generator. But before I got halfway across the cabin, I was faced by another example of the dwindling passenger discipline in the form of another visitor. This one was at least more pleasant, and he was still carrying his little black bag.
I see you've been blessed with a visit from my bunkmate. Aye, and a strange one he is, wandering about the ship the way he does.
What about you, Griffity? What are you doing out of your cabin?
I've come to share with you a startling bit of information.
Oh? What is it?
Griffity has been about some, Captain dear, but for the life of me, never can I remember seeing a hale and hearty man huddled into a wheelchair before tonight.
What do you mean?
Was making my rounds among the passengers, bringing them what help I could in the way of soothing words and medicaments, I quietly opened the door to the cabin of Mr. and Mrs. Alfred Cram. The gentleman was there alone, Captain, busying himself pacing the floor fore and aft. Now, what do you think of that?
Yeah.
Closing the door without giving him a sight of me, I left, returning after a proper time and using my knuckles on the door. Come in, he says, and there he was in his wheelchair. Is there any help I can give you, says I. Get out, says he. Nobody prescribes for me but my personal physician. And where might he be, I asked him. Get out, says he, stiffening in anger. So I left him, and there's the story, Captain.
Yeah.
What do you make of it?
Nothing, Doc. It's none of my business. I got trouble enough of my own.
I suppose you're right. Yet it strikes me as queer that a man would waste his time in a wheelchair when he can walk about. But you'll have to admit, Captain dear, it is a strange list of passengers you've got.
That it is, Griffity. That it is. I didn't know how strange they were until I made my second try for the engine room. This time I'd gotten to the cabin door before I was stopped. I made it across the bucking cabin as quickly as I could and pulled open the door to the companionway. In the dim light from the oil lamps, I could see two people standing by the cabin shared by Reverend Beaver and Dr. Griffity. One of them was Vera Cram, and the other, bare to the waist, his upper body covered with intricate tattooing, visible even in the faint light, was the Reverend Harlan Beaver. His right arm was raised before he saw me, and his slap sent Vera Cram reeling across the companionway. Then he turned and went into his cabin.
Oh, Captain, thank heaven you've come.
What's going on, Mrs. Cram?
My husband, Captain. My husband. I'm afraid he's dead.
Griffity materialized out of the gloom someplace. They both followed me into the Cram cabin. Both portholes were open, and a gale whipping through them had blown out the lamp. I started to light it after closing the ports, but Griffity stopped me.
We don't need light, Captain. Poor fellow's dead. And perhaps darkness would be more merciful to the poor widow. Take her out, Captain. I'll do all there is to do, which is little more than covering the deceased from the eyes of the living.
All right. Okay, Mrs. Cram, you can come into my cabin.
Oh, thank you, Captain. You're very kind.
It wasn't until she'd moved into the light that I noticed that a change had come over her. She was no longer without makeup, and she no longer dressed in shapeless clothes. She'd stopped trying to look 15 years older than she was, and she was quite becoming, even in widowhood. Sit down over here, Mrs. Cram. You won't feel the roll so much.
Oh, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Captain, I feel that I must tell you something. Oh, I've got to talk to someone.
Oh, what about?
About my husband. I don't believe he died of natural causes. You saw Reverend Beaver in the companionway?
When he slugged you, yeah.
His clerical robes and his kindly attitudes are a disguise, Captain. I think he killed my husband.
Why?
Out of jealousy. Harlan Beaver and I were quite closely associated a few years ago. Intimately, you might say.
Oh?
But he got into serious trouble with the Dutch officials, and he was sent to prison.
Mm-hmm.
I promised to wait for him, but while he was gone, I learned to hate him for what he'd done to me. I married Alfred. Harlan found me and wanted me back. He threatened many times to kill Alfred, and I'm convinced that he finally did.
Yeah? What's the idea of that clerical disguise, anyway? Just to cover up his tattoo work?
I'm risking my life in telling you this, Captain. Harlan never finished his prison term. He escaped.
Oh, yeah.
Captain Carney, could I please stay here under your protection? I'm afraid.
Well, if it'll make you feel any better, Mrs. Cram, sure. You're welcome to the cabin. By the time the overcast morning had arrived, the wind had dropped to a fresh, gusty breeze. We'd repaired the main backstay, The Scarlet Queen plunged into the still heavy swells under sail again. We'd made a new course to Pari Pari. We were a half hour out, and I was just being relieved at the wheel when Griffiths walked aft to meet me.
Could I have a private word with you, Captain?
Sure, Griffiths. How private? Mrs. Cram's in my cabin.
Well, then the one recently vacated by her husband.
Okay, come on. It's about Cram being killed instead of dying. I already heard it.
Oh, did you now? And from whom, may I ask?
His wife? Oh, how about it?
It's the truth, Captain. He was poisoned. Did she confess?
No. She accused Beaver.
The Reverend now. And what might have been gnawing at him to drive him to such lengths?
The fact that he's not a reverend, he's an escaped convict. And jealousy over the woman from some past friendship.
Aye, now, splendid. All the elements of drama, Captain dear.
Yeah? Well, you can have it, Griffiths. Sounds a little messy to me.
You don't approve of these people, Captain?
Not especially. None of them turn out to be what they looked like in the first place. The invalid isn't an invalid. He doesn't die, he's killed. The mousy woman turns into a sweater girl. The reverend is an escaped convict. It's a pretty good average.
Everybody but Griffiths. He came aboard a villain, and by the saints, a villain he'll remain. But to the gist. Feeling a pang of hunger just before Cram departed, and having a weakness for strained baby food myself, I went into the hold to get me a can.
You got guts, Griffiths, nosing around my ship.
Hey, but I'm willing to pay for the liberty I took. Did you know, Captain dear, that you have a fortune on your ship? Or did I find it out?
What are you talking about?
Look here. Baby food.
The can he held out to me had been opened. The label called it strained vegetables. But the can was filled with salt-like white crystals. It wasn't hard to figure what it was or why Cram had been putting on the invalid act.
Narcotics, Captain. A ton of the stuff, I should say. Now listen, Captain dear. You've an eye for profit, or you wouldn't be sailing these waters, carrying passengers and the like. The two of us have a fortune stacked up about us here in the cabin, and more in the hold. It's ours for the taking.
Yeah?
Thousands of florins, dollars if you like. Do you have the heart for it?
Well, that depends on our chances, Griffiths.
Who's to say no?
Vera Cram?
Yeah, she'll not say a word. Not with the specter of murder hanging over her own head. She'd have a time convincing anybody she didn't poison them for a full share of their supplies.
Do you think she did?
No, because I did. But nobody'll prove it, Captain dear. Even if they try, which I doubt.
You did?
A few drops of poison in the oil of the lamp, Captain, after cutting the wires of the generator so we'd have the lamps. Death by absorption of the stuff. A trick developed by the Borgias, God love 'em, who used the wick of the candle for the same purpose.
A handy thing to know, isn't it?
Perfect conditions. Small cabin, no ventilation, with the ports closed against the storm. And, Captain dear, no evidence. The lantern I chucked over the side. What do you think of that?
That's very neat, Griffiths. I liked you better before I heard it, but it's very neat.
You will join me in the venture?
What's the deal?
I simply face her with the truth. Offer her a choice between being turned over for smuggling and murder and freedom as an honest woman recently widowed due to natural causes, carrying in her hand a death certificate signed by me and witnessed by you, and dabbing at her eyes from grief brought on by seeing her poor husband buried at sea. What do you think of that?
I'll think it over.
The thinking's done. What do you mean, man?
Well, we've only seen one can of baby food, Griffiths. You stay here and check some of these. I'm going into the hold and look at some of the ones down there. Okay?
Well, you gave me a start, man. I thought you'd lost your heart.
Yeah. Not me, Griffiths.
Captain! Captain! What have you done?
After I locked his door, I did the same with those leading to the other principals. If there was anything I didn't want to get mixed up with, it was the Netherlands Indies Customs. They're tough at best and even tougher on non-nationals. I was going to turn over the whole shipload to the first official who'd take them. But I should have thrown them overboard and saved myself the trouble. Our hook hadn't been on the bottom of shallow anchorage off Pari Pari 5 minutes before the pudgy little local regent had climbed out of his dinghy and stomped into the cabin. The arrival didn't surprise me, but what he had to say did.
Captain Kearney, I have the pleasure to report that you are to be detained for the arrival of customs officers from Macassar.
Oh, I thought I'd give you the news, Regent. I got them all locked up for you, and the contraband is just as it came aboard.
You will receive no leniency for your late show of cooperation.
Leniency? Why should I need leniency?
Yeah, you asked me that, Captain.
Yeah, I asked you that. I didn't know what I had aboard until a little over an hour ago.
You waste your time. That true story came from Macassar last night.
What true story?
That you loaded the cargo, Captain.
It wasn't cargo, and I didn't know what it was. The passengers were transferred from another ship. Papers, baggage, supplies, and all.
Yeah, you tell me that. But I tell you, Captain Van Riper went to the customs...
Captain Van Riper?
Yeah.
What does he know about it?
He says the cargo was not on his ship. That he saw you and the Cran woman talking and that you took money from her.
Ah, well, then it's a frame.
A what?
I don't know what you call it out here. It means Van Riper's lying.
Why should he lie?
To get me into trouble with customs. Hey, what company does he sail under, do you know?
It says on the message. It is here. Do you read that?
I don't have to. Constantino, isn't it?
That is the name.
Yeah, I thought so. Gallagher!
Hey, right down, Skipper.
Never mind coming down. Up anchor. We're sailing out of here.
Wait.
Do you mean it, Skipper?
Get moving, Red. Get us out of here.
Stand by to up anchor.
What was that? Yeah, I know, Fatty. You're a big man around here, but I can't stand still for this one. Now, do you want a pleasant trip, or do I have to brain you? And don't think I'm not mad enough to do it. Don't try it.
You resist the Netherlands Indies
When
government?
it reaches for a gun, I guess we'll have to. Oh, I warned you, Fatty. I'll warn you again. You be a good boy, or I'll lash you to a mast.
You hear from...
I've heard enough already. Now, come on, get up on your feet and follow me around. Don't talk, just listen. You know, if you behave, you'll make yourself a name on this island. Come on. Griffity, you there?
Hey, what's brewing? We're heading out to sea again.
I got good news for you, Griffity. Yeah, I got a Dutch official who wants to come in with us. Protection.
You don't say now. Aye, what a fortune will do to the official mind.
Here he is.
Yeah.
He's worried about one thing. He thinks too many people know the stuff's aboard.
Oh.
He doesn't quite believe that you and the woman and I are the only ones, and that even I didn't know until an hour or so ago.
Aye, that's right. There's not a thing to fear, man, dear. It was a good scheme from the beginning, and it's proven now.
Yeah, since you killed Cram.
Well, that is a subject without appeal when I'm faced with a uniform.
Thanks, Griffity. We'll get together later and map our course. After locking Griffity in his cabin again, I left the Regent in Gallagher's hands and called on Vera Cram. All I had was passion and greed to work with, but sometimes when they're stirred together, they're strong medicine. To her, I told the whole story up to but not including the meeting with Dutch law or its presence aboard. Then I went to the Reverend Harlan Beaver and told him the same, using only the truth, except in regard to one point. Because when I left him, he believed that Vera was not only denying him a share of the fortune in drugs as well as herself, but that she decided to share them both with Griffity. I led the Regent into my cabin, tucked him in a corner out of sight but within hearing, returned his gun to him. I stationed Red outside the passageway in case I needed him, and then I gathered the passengers.
What is the meaning of this meeting, Captain? I contracted for passage to my mission in
You can
Tarifat.
drop the act and take off the high collar, Beaver. We all know who you are.
Vera.
I had to tell him, Holland, darling. I thought he'd help us.
Help us what? Spend a fortune from your narcotics?
Captain, I don't...
Shut up, Griffity!
I thought he'd help us with your escape, Holland, so that we could start our life together again, Holland.
But, Captain, why has the situation...
Keep quiet, Griffity!
Please, Holland.
Well, now, who might you be to be quiet in me? What?
Vera, I've taken a last from you. The months in prison I did for you. The escape I did for you. The hiding in disguise I did for you. Even your marriage didn't stop me. But this has.
What, Harlan? I don't understand.
Don't lie to me. I'd only felt this way before. How easy it would have been.
But I don't understand.
After Cram is dead, and you decide to share what you are and what you have with Griffity, you don't understand that anything I felt for you has turned to hate.
Griffity. What have you been saying, Griffity?
I haven't been saying anything.
No, of course you haven't. Why should you?
Because I don't talk unless I think, Beaver, which is more than I can say for the two of you. But now I have thought, and I know why the captain has brought us here.
Don't sight a gun, Griffity.
It is the captain who thinks he will gain, but he won't.
Harlan, no!
The medicine almost backfired. Griffith pulled a revolver out of his pocket, pushing his chair back as he stood. He swung toward me, but Beaver's hate and jealousy were faster. His gun spoke before he realized that Griffith was drawing on me. He watched Griffith's body slump to the floor, and while he did, the truth came to him. He looked up at me, started to raise his gun again. Then my Dutch ally in the corner opened up. Beaver's right shoulder jerked twice under the shocks. He spun slowly around and collapsed loosely onto the deck.
He's not dead, no?
No, I don't think so, but thanks anyway.
Hey, Skipper, did it work all right?
Yeah, Red. You know, I think I set a record of some kind. I've been saved twice in as many minutes, once by an escaped convict and once by the law.
Not bad, Skipper, not bad.
Yeah, they will read about me in the newspapers in Macassar.
Better than that, Fatty. You're going to make a personal appearance, because that's where we're going now. By 9 the following morning, we'd made the return trip to Macassar, left our cargo, including passengers dead and alive, in the fat hands of the Regent, received our sailing orders, and headed out once more into a brightening sky over the strait. We left the harbor under power, but when we threaded through the traffic and found deep, clear water, we settled back on the wind.
Stand by to make sail!
The water was brushed into whitecaps by the playful gusts that were all that remained of the storm.
The starboard sheet, make sail!
The mainsail drew up to its height. The boom swung heavenly out. The deck beneath me shuddered a little under the first rush of sail power.
To the jib sheets, men! Smartly now!
The jibs went up and tightened. Then the mizzen. When the Scarlet Queen dug in, and the spray at her bow turned creamy with her speed, lifted into the air, flew to starboard like spindrift.
A better departure than the last one, Skipper.
Yeah, somewhat, mate.
We ought to set up a rule. No more passengers. They just mess up the ship.
Well, they aren't all bad, Red.
Oh, I don't know.
Some of my best friends have been passengers.
Well, how about smugglers?
Well, all right, I'll go along with you there. We accept no more smugglers.
Yeah, well, it's a relief to hear that. I know I'll sleep easier.
You sound like you don't believe me, Red.
Sure, I believe you, but I just don't trust smugglers.
Well, that's a good, honest American remark, Red. I'm proud of you.
I'm proud of you, too. Drink, Skipper?
Yeah, if you're sure it isn't contraband. After you, mate. After you. Log entry, the Ketch Scarlet Queen, 5:30 p.m. Miles traveled from San Francisco, 16,821. Sky overcast, wind light, carrying full sail. Ship secure for night. Signed, Philip Carney, Master.
The Voyage of the Scarlet Queen has come to you through the worldwide facilities of the United States Armed Forces Radio and Television Service.
Log entry, the Ketch Scarlet Queen, Philip Carney, Master. Position, 6 degrees 42 minutes south, 116 degrees 6 minutes east. Wind light, sky fair. Remarks, departed port of Bulilong Bali after trouble over stores. Reason for trouble, Ah Sin and the Balinese Beaux Art Ball. For 3 days out of Macassar, we rode the long swells that rolled out of the Java Sea before the winds of the northwest monsoon. And on the morning of the 4th, we raised the peak of Gunung Agung, with its guardian formation of cumulus clouds, streaming eastward in the brilliant sky and shadowing the island of Bali, spread out below. Kang's orders for the port of Bulilong were some of the most important we'd received on the voyage. We were to take on stores. Not ordinary stores, but salvage gear, diving gear, heavy jury anchors. All equipment to be used at the end of our quest for Kang's $10 million treasure of Chinese relics. To be used to lift it from hiding and place it in the cargo holds of the Scarlet Queen. By 2 o'clock that afternoon, we'd fought the treacherous currents that swirl in and out of the shallow indentation that is Bulilong Harbor. And by sunset, we'd found a berth at a small public quay. After we were secure, my chief mate Gallagher and I headed up into town to find our contact, a man named de Groot, the owner of the Bangka Ship Chandlers. The building was easy to find. The first premonition I had that anything was wrong was the blast of jasmine perfume that swept over me as we walked in. But I couldn't make myself believe it until I saw the brocade-wrapped mountain of flesh and the childlike features lost in the billowing fat, the lacy handkerchief drawn through the large jade ring, and the dainty, dimpled hands. He still looked Chinese, and he still sounded like Charles Lawton.
Well, the dashing Captain Connie. So nice to see you again.
Oh, Sim. Stinky! Where's de Groot? What the devil are you doing here?
A stroke of luck, sir. I reached an agreement with de Groot just last evening. At the moment, I am the owner of the Bangka Ship Chandlers.
That's enough for me. I'm getting out.
Now, just hold on. Don't y'all go going off half-cocked now.
Very concisely put, Mr. Mangan.
It couldn't have been. The Mangan we'd run into in Tientsin had died. But this one looked like him and talked like him. And more to the point, like the other one, he sported a pearl-handled Frontier model Colt.
So Mutual continues The Voyage of the Scarlet Queen, written by Gil Dowd and Bob Tallman, and starring Elliott Lewis. The Scarlet Queen, proudest ship to plow the seas, bound for uncharted adventure. Every week a complete entry in the log, and every week a league further in the strange Voyage of the Scarlet Queen.
All right, Austin, let's have it. What do you want?
You find me in dire need of your help, sirs.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Now, don't go interrupting Austin all the time, will you? Just let him have his say.
Thank you, Mr. Mangan. Oh, by the way, sirs, this is Mr. Mangan, my confidential secretary. You'll possibly remember his brother, deceased in the line of duty.
Yeah, I remember.
I must say that although I do miss Richard, his brother Robert has developed into a most satisfactory associate. But my problem. I am caught between two equally powerful forces, and I must admit I'm at a loss as to which way to turn. Upon the one side, Mr. Constantino. Upon the other, your own employer, Kuji Kang. Both gentlemen hungering after esteem and wealth, and, dear me, I find myself embroiled.
Yeah, I'll bet you fought to stay out all right. Huh?
Oh, yes, indeed. I made myself most unavailable. Yeah. I was, in fact, taking my ease aboard one of my pearling luggers off the Tanim bars when I was approached by a courier from Mr. Constantino, a quite superior type of chap, Roland Galter by name. Mm-hmm. I disliked him immediately, but alas, he offered me $10,000, merely to describe to him the stores that are to be placed aboard your ship. He could thus duplicate the order, and Constantino would also be suitably equipped for the final struggle to wrest the fortune from its hiding place.
So you turned it over to him?
Not yet.
Hmm? What's holding you up?
To be quite candid, sir, I have become obsessed with a notion.
Yeah.
To wit, that perhaps you might prevail upon Mr. Kang to offer me a slightly larger sum to turn your supplies over to you.
Well, if that isn't so lousy...
Now, just wait a minute. Hold on, will you? Just wait a minute. Don't y'all go getting riled up in that tone of voice. Our sin was just trying to set your minds to thinking. He could just as well have told me to pick you off as you come through that door. He didn't. He's just trying to be friendly.
Thank you, Mr. Mangan. That will be quite enough, I think. Well, Captain?
What have you done with DeGroot?
Mr. DeGroot is vacationing at a secluded spot near the center of the island.
And he told me to tell you that he don't want to be disturbed.
Yeah, that's logical.
Well, Captain?
Well, where's the closest cable office so I can get word to Kang?
You would, in your message, suggest that he make a counteroffer?
What else?
Splendid. Then I've anticipated you. I've already communicated with Mr. Kang, painting clearly the situation, including the intense danger in which you and your chief officer find yourself.
What do you mean by that?
Mr. Galter, sir, a most dislikable fellow. He would kill you both should you learn of the plan, or should the plan fail. So you see, you are indeed in intense danger.
Yeah, thanks.
Now then, shall we go?
Go where?
To meet your enemy, Mr. Galter, and his charming comrade, Loretta. For the occasion, I prepared a small welcoming ceremony at my residence here.
Thanks again, but I think we'd rather go back to the ship.
Mr. Mangan?
Maybe Arsen's invite was too polite for you. Just move, dadgummit. Get headed out that door.
Arsen's house was like the resident governor's palace. And his small welcoming ceremony, from what we could see of it from the entrance hall, was a South Seas version of the Beaux-Arts ball.
I have found it a great boon in situations of tenseness to call upon pleasure in generous portions.
So I see. I can tell from here it's been a great party.
Yeah, but don't forget, Corny, I'm going to be riding herd on you from someplace.
Thank you, Mr. Mangan. Shall we go in?
Ah Sin minced across the hall with Red and me following in the backwash of jasmine that flowed from him. Mangan brought up the rear. The big room we entered was well supplied with people, food, and liquor. The people were mostly Balinese and mostly female, which meant that they were of a type world hailed for coloring, form, and costume. The food was heaped from one end of 40 feet of polished teak table to the other, and had come from every corner of the world. The bar was supplied with the same eye toward variety. As we reached the center of the room, a supple young girl stepped onto a low platform, began rising to the rhythms of a few musicians who squatted beside her.
If we gotta have trouble, Skipper, this is the way I want it.
This is the way you got it, so watch your step, will you?
You could enjoy my little party, gentlemen.
Yeah, it's great. Could be very relaxing.
Indeed. The true purpose of such fare and such company. Mr. Mangan, take Mr. Gallagher to the bar.
Yes, sir. Come on, Red.
See you later, Skipper.
Yeah, Red.
Now, sir, if you will come with me, you shall meet the other element in our little triangle.
Galter and his charming comrade were waiting for us in a quieter corner. He wasn't outstanding. Heavy-featured, stocky, half a head shorter than I, carrying his cargo a little too much drink. But Loretta was different. Auburn hair loosely framing a delicately tanned face. Eyebrows arching over soft brown eyes with lashes that almost, but not quite, touched the eyebrows. And a habit of caressing her own full mouth with her fingertips, though she liked it too.
Like all good hosts, Captain Carney, I like to surround myself with people of all types. Here is my Caucasian display. Miss Loretta Finley and Mr. Roland Galter.
I represent that Caucasian display out there.
Oh, come now, a mere pleasantry.
All right. I resent that kind of pleasantry then.
Oh, Roland, drop it.
No, you don't like my attitude. All right, I'll take it out with me when I go, if the kind Oriental will still allow me the use of the room. Good night.
Surly
Oh,
pig.
come now, my dear. Mr. Galter shall in no way lessen the pleasures of the evening. Shall he, Captain?
The rest of the guests seem to be living through it. Sin?
Indeed. And in the face of food, drink, and music, why not live? I will look into the welfare of your chief officer, sir. In the meantime, I hope that you two will enjoy each other as well as my husband.
Did that sound a little pointed to you?
A little, yeah. He takes his name too seriously. Come on, let's have a drink or something.
That's as good a way to start as any.
She was not only beautiful, but she was led by instinct. and well versed in using the same instinct on others. We went from the bar to the wide-screen veranda, then to some comfortable rattan furniture in a secluded corner of the softly scented garden.
What's the matter, Phil?
What could be? Just wishing I knew you better.
Why?
So I'd know why you were here?
In Boulalone?
No, here.
Oh. Because you appealed to me.
How about Galder?
He doesn't appeal to me anymore. You do. Come here, darling. See?
Yeah,
Are you glad?
I'm human.
I know you are. Oh, I know you are, darling. What was that? No, what is it?
How about you telling me?
Phil, my arm, you're hurting me.
You bring me out here to get me out of the way?
No, Phil. Really, I didn't know he was going to do anything. Phil, let go.
Sit down and stay there. I'll tell you later if you're lying or not. By the time I got to the house, the place was in a frenzy. I saw Gallagher crumpled on the floor, and Galder was stepping over his body. It only took one look to see that he was anything but drunk. What's going on, Galder?
Okay, Connie. Keep moving this way.
What have you done to Gallagher?
A man his size is safer on the floor.
You look pretty good there yourself.
Hell, don't try it, Connie.
Start talking before I do. Right now, that gun doesn't scare me. It makes me mad.
Go on, get mad. Everybody's out in the open now.
What do you mean by that?
I've seen to it that the message from our Cinder Gang never got out of Bully Long, Connie. Whatever bargaining's to be done will be done by me, which means none. Now turn around and face the door.
Okay, it's your party, Galder. Where are we going?
You really want to know? You're staying here.
Wait. The throb in my head, the pain of an arm twisted under me were the lines that finally pulled me back to what was left of my world. It was inky dark. I was lying on a floor. Warm mouth. Such a warm...
Skipper? You here, too?
Yeah. So I've seen.
I've been laying here for 4 or 5 years, I guess, not moving for fear that clunkhead would bash me again.
What happened, Red? I was outside, being human.
Well, all of a sudden, Volta had Arsene laid out like we were, and then Mangan.
Galder's quite a boy. Where's Arsene now?
A couple of natives dragged him and Mangan out the back way.
Yeah.
My head's got a knot the size of a heaving lead. If I ever get my hands on it...
Hold it.
What is it?
I don't know. Listen.
Phil?
Quiet, Red. Yeah?
Thank heaven I finally found the room.
What do you want?
Phil, believe me, I didn't draw you away from the house for any reason except my own. Listen, I can get you out of here. Will you trust me?
Candidly, no.
Here's Mangan's gun. Now will you trust
Not
me?
if you gave me the Royal Dutch Artillery. Everything you do is just too pat. This, for example. Why?
Because I want to get rid of Galter. I want you to kill him.
You're faded. I'll take that one.
Okay, gorgeous. Lead the way. It isn't much, but it's the best offer we've had since the lights went out. I didn't know where she was taking us, but wherever it was, we went on foot. We picked up the smells of the harbor at low tide, then the greasy shine of the water. She led us out onto a pier, to a shack set up on pilings. We opened the door. Mixed with the stench of mud, there drifted the faint odor of jasmine. And huddled in a corner, tied hand and foot, and with his head hanging in shame, his robe soiled and torn, was Arsene. Across from him was Mangan.
Leave me. I beg of you. Go. Leave me to my shame.
Well, that's a fine reaction, isn't it?
Oh, now, Sin, don't go acting that way.
I demand, not request, that you leave me the infinitesimal bit of face I might save from this cruel series of events.
Well, unloose me, Corny. I'm going gunning for a varmint named Golf.
You're going to race me.
Here, spread your hands so I can get this blade between them.
Yeah.
Get his feet, will you, Red?
Oh, boy.
You know where Galter will go?
I got a mighty strong hunch.
Huh?
If he's looking for them supplies of yours and he don't find them in the warehouse, I figure he'd go right back to our Sin's house. Where they at?
There you are.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Oh, well, say, ain't that little old coat of mine that you got?
Yeah. Here, Mangan, you can have it.
Well, look up there now. All right, now don't you fret none, Austin.
If I could see but one small glimmer of hope.
Oh, buck up, you old horse thief.
Look, we don't have time to stay here and argue with you. Come on, Sin. We're going to save your face. Sin's house was still lighted when we got there. The main room still cluttered by the table full of food, the refuse left by the people who'd been there. Gallagher and Mangan started through the place looking for Galter. Sin, Loretta, and I stayed in the big room to watch the exits. It was about 5 minutes after the search started that we heard Mangan flush him.
Heads up, everybody, here it comes.
I moved toward the door that led from the long hallway. I heard him running toward me. Then when he broke from the doorway, I made a short 10-foot rush. I hit him from his left, my right shoulder driving into his legs just above the knee so that my body swung in front of him and he crashed over me. Oh, the bruises gun barrel had left behind my ear got bumped in the first impact. And with the anger the pain brought me, I let him up. Stood back, then went in again to regain the face I'd lost when he gun whipped me.
Well, doggone. You get yourself into a temper when you get to going, don't you?
Watch it, Mangan. You don't come out of it for a while either.
Bill, darling, are you all right?
Get away from me! Leave me alone! Bill! You can kill him yourself. I've had enough of him.
Captain, when the final accounting is made,
Shut up! Oh, calm down, Skipper. You've had your fun. He slugged me, too, and I didn't even get a crack at him.
Sorry, Red. Well, who's doing the bargaining now?
I've tried, Phil, but if you'll let me, I'd like to try again.
All right, if you want to do something, go mix me a drink.
All right, Phil.
Captain, your instinct is infallible.
What do you mean by that?
Sending that dreadful woman away. See here.
What?
Proving that Galter is not the only one capable of intercepting cables. This missive from Constantino addressed not to Galter, but to Miss Loretta Finley. Peruse it, sir.
The cable didn't make me feel any worse or any better, but it did make sense. Loretta Finley was the loyal Constantino worker. Since we were so close to Kang's treasure, Galter had decided to hide the information about my equipment, outfit his ship himself, and enter the race on his own. So finally, the warm trip to the softly scented garden made sense.
Well, sir, would you like to claim her yourself for chastisement?
No. You can have her.
Oh, splendid, splendid. Mr. Mangan, go apprehend Miss Loretta. We will sell her for a handsome profit to the first party leaving for the Asia mainland.
Well, we could send her down to Texas. That'd take the fight out of her.
Well, sir, when the final accounting, I believe it is safe to assume that we may part as we met, on equal footing and as the best of friends. My broken furniture and dishes, a not inconsiderable item notwithstanding.
Your face is all right?
Indeed. Since you, my friend, saw to it that Galter's activities were terminated on my premises, I feel that I have indirectly but conclusively saved the situation.
Well, that's a boy, old man. I knowed you'd come up bucking.
My debt to you is even now so great that my greatest sacrifice barely suffices to even the score. I give to you your supplies.
Well, you're very generous, Sim.
Indeed. Thank you, sir. I may say that you are a most estimable man yourself, sir.
By 9 the next morning, the equipment was aboard, and we pushed out against the tide toward the Flores Sea and the next port, an anchorage off Halmahera. Our bow lifted under the deep water swell, and the damp monsoon rolled down across our port quarter.
Stand by to make sail!
The crew, keyed to excitement by the diving gear we'd taken aboard, jumped to their stations, reminded again that it was an important ship they'd signed on.
Starboard sheet! Make sail!
The expanse of the mainsail followed the head climbing up the mast, flapped hopefully for a number of seconds, and settled back comfortably under the wind that finally filled it.
To the ship sheet, men! Smartly now!
The ship ran up, then the mizzen, and the Scarlet Queen slashed into the swells as though impatient, as though the wind and sea she had were not enough for her to work with.
Skipper, I want to ask you a question.
Fire away, Red.
When you said you were out in the garden acting human, just what did you mean?
Well, Red, I was just admiring all the glories of Bali, that's all. That's human.
Yeah, that's what I thought, of course. I knew you wouldn't be wasting your time with Loretta.
What do you know about it?
What do you think you were babbling about when you were coming to after that knock on the head?
Yeah? Well, what do you know about that?
Nothing. I'm waiting for you to tell me. Would a drink help, Skipper?
To bring back memories or drown regret?
Suit yourself, Skipper.
Okay, I will. After you, mate. After you. Log entry, the Ketch Scarlet Queen. Miles traveled from San Francisco, 17,172. Sky fair, wind light. Ship secure for night. Signed, Philip Carney, Master. Mutual invite you to sail into further adventure on the Voyage of the Scarlet Queen next week, same time. Port of call, Gallela Halmahera. The Voyage of the Scarlet Queen stars Elliot Lewis as Phil Carney with Ed Max as Gallagher, and tonight featured Bill Conrad as Arsene with Barton Yarborough as Mangan. Galter was Paul Frees, and Loretta Ann Tobin. Music scored and conducted by Richard Arant. The Scarlet Queen, produced by James Burton, is written by Gil Dowd and Bob Tallman. Log entry, the Ketch Scarlet Queen, Philip Carney, Master. Position 2 degrees 25 minutes north, 128 degrees 13 minutes east. Wind light, sky fair. Remarks, left anchorage Cayuga Bay, Halmahera after unscheduled voyage to island of Batanta. Reason for voyage, Grafters Fort in the Black Pearl of Gallela Bay.
Shortly before the Civil War, a daring plan was conceived to speed the mail between East and West. It was the famous Pony Express. On April 3rd, 1860, the first Pony Express riders set out from St. Joseph, Missouri, with a pocket of lightweight mail. Along the express route, other riders and fresh horses waited at relay stations in order that the mail could be carried without a break. 10½ days after the first rider left St. Joseph, a Pony Express rider galloped into Placerville, California. The mail had crossed the country in record time. For a short time, the Pony Express continued its colorful operation as the riders fought against hardship and danger to bring the East and West closer together. But while the service was fast, it was also expensive, too expensive to be continued. In 1861, the Pony Express was discontinued, but not before it had become a part of the American legend. Today, the Pony Express is remembered at both ends of the route. In St. Joseph, Missouri, is the Pony Express Monument, which recalls the courage of the riders. At the other end of the old route is the Pony Express Museum in Sacramento, which at one time was a relay station of the Express. The Pony Express Monument and Museum remind us of the rich heritage that as Americans we share and stand ready to defend.
It was the 10th morning after we left the island of Bali that we pushed into Malacca Passage and swung close to the 100-mile chain of islands that fringes the west coast of Halmahera. By noon, we'd trimmed our sail and started the channel run past Morotai. It was then that my chief mate, Gallagher, noted the receipt of a radio message in the log of the Scarlet Queen and came to the wheel to report it to me.
It's an NC, Skipper. The schooner Regina aground in Gallela Bay. Captain and mate ashore.
But the message told only a part of the story. We found the Regina all right, 50 yards offshore, her stern awash to the main house, her back broken on a reef. It wasn't until we'd coasted by her on the landward side that we saw the rest. There was a man aboard. He was native and he was dead. He'd been hanged from the foremast, and his body revolved and swung slowly from side to side as the current and the reef fought continually for possession of the battered hull.
And so Mutual continues The Voyage of the Scarlet Queen, written by Gil Dowd and Bob Tallman, and starring Elliott Lewis. The Scarlet Queen, proudest ship to plow the seas, bound for uncharted adventure. Every week a complete entry in the log, and every week a league further in the strange Voyage of the Scarlet Queen.
It didn't take me long to decide that I didn't want any part of this particular salvage and rescue job. I pushed the throttle open and swung the wheel to port to make the shortest turn possible back toward the open sea. The circle took us in toward shore, and at the closest point, the rest of the situation broke.
By those dirties. What's going on?
Keep down, Red.
50 caliber. I'd recognize that voice anywhere. It'll make a sieve out of the Queen before we could get her out of range.
Kill the motor, Red.
Okay.
All right. We'll drift in.
Drop your hook! We'll send you to the bottom!
What's the idea?
I said drop your hook!
I said, what's the idea?
Was that close enough?
Gallagher. Yeah. Let go the bow anchor.
Okay.
A hand here, Crowder. You're a good head, Captain. Start putting your small boat over the side. You and your chief mate, come ashore.
I hope I ain't putting you to any trouble. I get moving up the trail, Captain. I don't waste no words. I want passage out of here. I want to go to Batanta. My mate, a native girl, and me. It's about southeast of this island.
That's not where we're going.
All right, Captain, it's where I'm going. With you or without you.
The shack we were approaching was typically native, set in a clearing in the nipa palms. 100 yards behind it was the fringe of the fairly large village of Gallela, with the inevitable tin-roofed frame building belonging to the single Chinese trader. As we swung around the corner of the shack, I saw 2 more machine guns set up to cover the village. In front of their muzzles at the edge of the clearing, there were 4 or 5 dark-skinned bodies sprawled in the sun where they'd fallen.
2 people waited for us in the shack.
All right, get inside and sit down.
One I took to be the mate, swarthy, slightly built, with a faint smile twisting his thin lips. The other was the ugliest native girl I've ever seen. Flattened nose, a squat, sagging figure, and earlobes hanging almost to her shoulders from the weight of the G-jaws shoved into the gaping perforations. I couldn't figure why anyone would want to take her anyplace.
If one would carry Banner on one ship.
Shut up, you sniveling cow. Get over there and sit down.
All right, never mind, Louise. Now, let's talk it over, Captain. The beggars are after my pearls. They were diving for me. We had fair luck, and now they want them for themselves to take over to Caillou Bay or to trade to that Chinaman in the village. They wrecked my ship,
And they would starve us out in time if we stay here and let them, which we don't think is a very good idea. Huh, Grafter?
You got any more to say, Grafter?
I said enough, didn't I?
You've been pumping nothing but lies, Grafter. These Halmaherons have been diving for quite a few generations. They don't have to rush machine guns for a handful of pearls. You don't have to hang them from a mast to keep them in line.
What do you think of this fellow, Grafter?
Let him blow.
That's all I have to say. Come on, Red, we're leaving.
Okay, Skipper.
Don't try it.
Let them come, Grafter.
We had to try it because there's no place to phone for help on Halmahera. The chair I threw at Grafter sent him off balance, but it stopped things for only a second. Red got his hands on Louis too late. The automatic flashed twice, and Gallagher's knees buckled. He crumpled to the floor, his hands clutching at Louis and finally dragging him down, too. I forgot Grafter. I forgot everything but the red stain that was spreading from the side of Gallagher's head running down his neck, already soaking his jumper. I headed for Louis. I landed on him. Was reaching for his throat when my head exploded under Grafter's gun muzzle, and I went out of the fight. I don't know for how long, but when I came back, Red was still alive. He'd gotten to his feet. He was half blinded by blood, but he was still fighting. He'd lifted Louise by his belt, and he was swinging his body at Grafter like a club, with nothing but heart keeping him moving. I got to my feet and started across the room to help him, but I couldn't get there. I grabbed the wall to keep me up. And the last thing I saw before I went out again was the squat, splay-footed native girl, Bonna. She found a piece of broken furniture. She held it like a club, and she was moving in for the kill. And then the picture swam in my eyes, turned gray, and then blacked out. When I could see, or knew that I was seeing again, I was still on my feet and walking. I didn't know where I was or how I'd gotten there, but I was out of the shack, out of sight of the village. Then I remembered the final picture of Red. They didn't have a reason in the world to stop short of killing him. Suddenly, everything went out of me. It was kind of a relief to pass out.
I believe you slept in a long time. You come awake now?
Red.
Me no Red. Me sing she. For a long time, trader Galela.
Oh, yeah.
I think a man belong along machine gun hit your head too hard.
Grafter. No, not hard enough. Who'd you say you were?
Me sing she, trader. Your own house belong to me. Galela village boy is my friend. But they bring you along this place.
Yeah, why?
It's hot. I tell them, I want to help you. You like need help?
I don't know what I need. What you and Galela boys want?
Want your fast passage to a place of ancestor for those who belong to machine gun.
You want to get rid of Grafter and Louis, too, huh?
You help. Galela boys help. Very soon, all of that dead long time.
What did they do to Galela boys?
How they say long you?
Well, they tell me they find plenty pearls, that Galela boys want to take pearls back.
That's true. Catch many pearl. Many pearl.
You talk straight, Sing. Maybe we all help.
You listen.
All right.
Long time, very big shark spirit. He say this. When Galela boy catch a big black pearl, keep pearl. Many wives come to village, you savvy?
I savvy, and they found the black pearl.
One black pearl.
And Grafter and Louise could keep all the rest, but they still wouldn't give it up. Must be a wonderful pearl, Sing.
Bring much money, plenty wives. You help poor Galela boys. They catch your wives. You catch your men belong along machine gun.
Sounds like a fair trade. Sing, do you have any guns here?
No guns.
You have dynamite?
Not dynamite.
You savvy dynamite?
Savvy, sure. Catch your men and fish along dynamite.
You know one boy, he's strong swimmer. He swim to my ship.
Oh, I know man is strong swimmer.
One boy.
Mm.
You tell him go long way up beach. You tell him swim long way out. Come my ship from reef, you savvy?
Savvy. They no see from beach.
Good. You go bring him here. He take note for me to ship. He bring back box with dynamite and gun. Go on now, chop, chop.
Very good. Oh, very soon joyous. Boom. All of the fly away to ancestor.
It took a little better than an hour and a half for Singh's boy to get to the ship and back. Another 45 minutes to cap and fuse the dynamite. All right, listen, Singh. You take dynamite to beach near machine guns. Not close, you savvy? You stay in shadows.
Oh, like a tiger.
Yeah, like a tiger. Then as soon as you get there, you light all dynamite and throw it.
Like a soldier.
Not at the machine gun, Singh. Some on the beach, some in the water. Those at machine gun will fire at noise, savvy?
Oh, what the matter? Throw to machine gun.
Because they may be hide black pearl. You kill them, they can't tell you where. Savvy?
Savvy. Oh, you're very strong, man. Very smart, like a Singh. I throw to beach, to water.
Then you come back here. Wait for me.
Oh, where you go?
I go to their house. Grafter is there. When he hears dynamite and maybe machine gun, he runs out of house. And I catch him like this.
Very nice. You strong, man. You have a many friend in the village tomorrow. I go now.
After he left, I pocketed my .45 and skirting the edge of the silent, darkened village, I headed for the shack in the clearing. The gun was still in my hand when I heard the faintest rustle of almost silent feet behind me. The safety catch snapped off as I whirled, and I was ready for a hip shot. But I didn't use it.
Please, don't, Captain. Sing. You savvy long me.
Sing, what the devil are you doing here? Why aren't you on the beach with the dynamite?
Oh, catch you two little boys. They like to shoot dynamite.
Sing, if you mess this up, Look, you stay this place. Right here. I go to shack. You don't come along with me.
Savvy. I stay this place. In shadow, like hiding tiger.
I didn't risk a look through the window when I got to the shack to see what was in store for me. I inched to a position about 3 feet from the doorway and waited. It wasn't for long. Then the first charge blew. And the answering burst of machine gun fire blasting at flashes and shadows told me that the reactions on the beach were normal. Almost simultaneously, I heard feet hit the floor inside to start for the door. I moved into position just as he stopped in the doorway. It wasn't Grafter. It was even more to the point, it was Luis. And I smashed my right hand, automatic and all, into the middle of his sneering face. Everything I felt, grief, hate, a continually beating desire to avenge Red went into the blow. Get up, Luis.
What are you doing here?
Get on your face! Got some talking to do first. So help me, what I'll do to you after that, I don't know.
I got to talk with you.
Don't, Luis. Help me keep my hands off of you. Be careful what you say. What did you say? Now sit down.
What do you want?
I want the Black Pearl.
What the devil? What Black Pearl?
Right. How about it? The Black Pearl from Galila Bay.
You're off your head. We didn't get any Black Pearl here. We didn't even work the beds. We ran in here from some weather, and the Malays attacked.
Why do you keep asking for it, Luis?
Why do you think that I lie with a 45 in my face? I'm telling you the truth. You want to see our pearl, the pearl from a year and a half of working with the Moluccas? I show you in the table there.
Sure, Luis. Go get your pearls.
We got the sack off the ship. I show you what we sweat for.
It was almost as though he told me what he was going to do. And I let him. He opened the drawer. And I knew from the way his hand spread, forefinger stretched for a trigger guard, that I was right. I let him pick it up. And when I saw the glint of metal, I fired. His right arm jerked between elbow and shoulder and swung back loosely. His fingers relaxed and the gun dropped back into the drawer. You got a left arm, Luis. You want to try it again? Don't you know I want you to, Luis? I saw you kill my chief mate. Don't you know I want you to try something so I can kill you?
You're crazy.
Maybe you're right, Luis.
I didn't kill your chief mate.
No? Maybe I was dreaming, huh, Luis?
If somebody killed him, it wasn't me.
Oh, you dirty little... Listen, Luis, the pearl. Tell me where the Black Pearl is.
I don't know what you mean. We don't have any Black Pearl. It is the truth.
You machine gunned the Malays that came after it. They wrecked your ship to get it, remember? The men in the village want it, Luis. They want the wives it'll bring.
Wait, Captain.
What is it, Sing? I can't turn around.
I am watchful long window. There's big danger belong this house.
Captain, I think I know.
What do you mean, Sing?
Please, make a step away from straight line belong window.
All right, I savvy.
Big danger come from big spirit.
10 seconds later, I learned why Sing had moved me. A heavy hunting spear streaked in through the window. Luis collapsed under the impact. I didn't have to check pulse to know that the spearman, whoever he was, had cheated me out of the final payoff for Gallagher.
Ah, very happy, Mr. Captain. I catch a danger away from you.
Yeah, thanks, Sing. But you'll never learn about Black Pearl from this fella.
He flies very faster and faster. Too bad.
You come along me, we maybe catch Grafter, huh?
Oh, no, only same with this one.
What? You mean dead?
Fly on happy wings. Oh, very dead.
How?
Galera boys put 2 dynamite very close alongside the machine gun.
You killed him?
Ah.
You plenty fool. Now who tell you where to find Pearl?
Oh, Galera boys no want your Pearl no more.
No, want you?
Galera boys want you one thing. A poor girl belong to Galera village. Poor Bana. You bring her, huh?
Me bring her? Where is she?
Oh, she along your ship.
On my ship? Who took her out there?
Oh, no fella take her. She take a fella. He hurt.
She took someone, Sing. This fella, his name Gallagher?
No. Not Gallagher. You think a name belong to me.
What do you mean, Sing? No savvy.
You talk a name same time you come awake.
What?
Him name, Red.
Yeah, Red. Are you sure? You no make mistake.
Oh, no mistake. Bana, she big friend along Red. You bring her village, belong her. You big friend for Bana.
Sing, I don't have time to explain this in case you don't understand it, but I promise if Bana wants to go to the royal wedding in London, I'll take her there. Red! Where are you, Red?
In my cabin, Skipper.
What? Well. Hey, you look great, Red.
Yeah.
What's that mess on your head?
Never mind. That's Banner's private mixture of fish scale, seaweed, and mud. If you try to take it off, I'll have a slit your throat. Besides, I got a gouge across my temple 1/2 inch deep and 6 inches long.
The great one will rest his tongue.
The great one?
Yeah. She liked the way I swung Louis around my head.
Oh, Red, if you knew what I've been through, I thought you were dead.
I almost was. Then Banner walked in and clubbed those two with a chair or something. I passed out. She hid me till dark and brought me out here in a canoe.
I promised her a trip to London if she wants it, but I suppose she'd rather have her Galila village. Banner, you want to go ashore now?
Ashore? Skipper, are you nuts?
The great one will rest his roar.
Ashore.
Well, what's the matter? Sing She said her village was waiting for her with open arms.
Well, I suppose he's right, but not Galila. Her village is on Batanta, the joint where Grafter wanted to go. They were going to deliver her to her husband for a big hunk of ransom.
Ransom? To get Banner back?
Yeah.
Red, let me tell you now, before this starts to make the kind of sense I think it's going to. I've been knocking my brains out trying to locate a black pearl that held a lot of magic until we killed everybody in Grafter's outfit so they couldn't tell me there wasn't any pearl.
Oh, yes, there is.
What?
Yeah. Tell him, Banner. Who is the pearl?
One is the wife of the Sultan of Batanta. One was taken by force from one's place. By those the great one be together as saplings. One's noble husband pledged gold, pearls, and bright stones to equal the weight of oneself for one's safe return.
That's quite a pile.
Then your buddy Sing She horned in on the deal. He got the Malays to wreck Grafter's ship and made his own deal with her old man.
Plenty wise for Galila boys. How many?
Only 200, and they must be budding.
And he led me around by the nose and called himself a simple trader.
If those in whose care I rest would decide upon their demand upon one's husband, one is anxious to journey at once to one's home and husband.
Poor Banner. She don't care who gets the ransom. She just wants to go home.
We wasted 3 days getting Bana to Batanta, convincing her husband that there was no debt between us, and getting back to Caillou Bay where one of Kang's luggers was waiting impatiently with our sailing orders. By 1 that afternoon, we'd weighed anchor, picked our way through the reefs under power, and nosed into the wind-brushed waters of Malacca Passage once more.
To make sail!
crewmen, relieved as always to get their faces pointed toward wide, deep water, jumped to their stations with a will. The big main boom, its sail filling suddenly with a heavy gust, swung recklessly to starboard, sending the men at the rail tumbling into prone positions to escape its sweep. Snapped out, and the pull of the sail sent a shudder through the ship.
Smartly now!
The jibs ran up, then the mizzen. The deck canted beneath me. Our spot in the world took on the atmosphere of speed that comes only from leaning sails, rushing water at the rail and taut rigging, making a song with the wind.
I'm not giving you much of a hand today, Skipper.
Ah, forget it, Red. With a head in the shape that yours is in, you'd probably foul us up anyway.
All right. Take my watches, then. I've earned a rest.
No argument there, Red. But she took good care of you, though. And you can't always have a beautiful nurse.
No. You and I are thinking of different kinds of beauty, Skipper. The picture of her when she waded into Grafter and Louis. Oh, that was real beauty.
And the picture of that hair, that figure, those earlobes when we met her.
Yeah.
Ah, that's real nightmare. But I love her.
All right, if you want to cut in. Drink, Skipper?
From this distance and with no gang fights in sight, I'm safe on all sides. You're cut in on. After you, mate. After you. Log entry, the ketch Scarlet Queen, 5:30 p.m. Miles traveled from San Francisco, 20,221. Wind fresh, sky fair. Carrying full sail. Ship secure for night. Signed, Philip Carney, Master.
In the exciting history of America's development into the foremost industrial nation in the world, the McCormick Reaper stands out as a monumental invention. Back in the 1830s, the flat, fertile prairie lands of the Middle West were ideal for growing grain. The all-important crop of wheat was easy to sow and to grow, but harvesting the grain was a different matter. A laborer swinging a large hand scythe moved slowly down the fields. Even a strong man could cut no more than an acre of grain a day. Farmers had to help each other to harvest crops, but unfortunately all crops ripened at about the same time and had to be harvested in 10 days. So it became a practice for farmers to plant only as much grain as the men in each family could reap in that short time. Then came the mechanical reaper, perfected by Cyrus McCormick. His first reaper, made in 1831, was a dismal failure. The noise terrified the horses which pulled the machine. It didn't cut evenly, and it damaged some of the grain. But McCormick was not one to give up easily. He kept working on his invention and secured his first patent in 1834. There was still no demand for his machine, however, so he kept working on it. By 1841, he had a horse-drawn machine resembling a chariot with a cutting arm extending several feet out at one side. As the reaper moved forward, steel fingers separated the grain into bunches of stalks that were cut by a sawtooth action resembling today's barber clippers. A large reel revolved around the cutting arm, each blade bending a section of wheat down and pressing it into the cutting action. McCormick sold 2 of these machines and opened a factory in Chicago. In the next 2 years, he built and sold 80 reapers. By 1851, he was selling 1,000 machines a year. By 1857, 23,000. McCormick's reaper caught on and was making farming in the prairie land productive and profitable. Over the great expanses of the West, our agricultural frontier was rolling toward the Rockies at the rate of 30 miles per year. Yes, at one time, the harvesting of vast fields of grain offered a problem of manpower. But it was solved by the mechanical reaper of Cyrus McCormick, who had the spirit typical of all American inventors. Somehow there must be a way. Let's find it.
Scarlet Queen stars Elliot Lewis as Phil Carney with Ed Max as Gallagher. And tonight featured Jack Crucian as Sing, with Rolf Sedan as Luis, and Virginia Gregg as Banna. Music scored and conducted by Richard O'Rod. The Scarlet Queen, produced by James Burton, is written by Gil Dowd and Bob Tallman.